What if the light that blinds you is not darkness, but the very truth you claim to seek? There are moments, fleeting yet eternal, when a mask slips, when the face beneath is not the one you recognize in a mirror, but something older, raw, unnameable. You call it honesty, this tearing away of illusions, yet your hands tremble at the edge of revelation. Why? What is it in man that fears the sun so deeply, that prefers the shadows, where his gods still whisper and his demons remain unnamed? You were taught that truth is a sword, sharp, noble, just. But what if it is not a weapon, but a wound, a gash torn open in the fabric of your certainties, bleeding meaning into the void? The prophets lied. The philosophers lied. Even science, in its cold robes, speaks only in metaphors carved from fear. And you, alone amidst these ruins, dare to ask, why does truth hurt? But ask more quietly than you breathe, for the answer may not be yours to bear. Consider the cave, not as allegory, but as anatomy. Your eyes, long accustomed to flickering lies, recoil from the blaze outside. The world you built upon sand calls itself stone. The love you named eternal wears a face of convenience. Each belief, each value, each fragile idol was forged not by reason, but by need. And now, standing on the precipice of understanding, you feel it, that nausea rising from the pit of knowing, not ignorance, no, but the unbearable weight of clarity. What if pain is not the price of truth, but its voice? A voice that speaks only to those who have dared silence the chorus of comfort. Every lie you ever swallowed was a promise of peace, of purpose, of place. To break that vow is not to gain wisdom, but to become exile in your own soul. There are no maps for this journey, only scars, only stars dimmed by the smoke of burned illusions. And somewhere beyond the horizon of yourself, a laughter echoes, perhaps divine, perhaps monstrous, asking, who are you when no one is watching? If you stay, you will not be saved, only revealed. This is not redemption. It is reckoning, the kind that carves St. Hollow and makes monsters kneel, the kind that asks not what you believe, but what you are willing to destroy to find out. So ask again, louder this time, why does truth hurt? And know that the moment you stop flinching from the question, the world begins to tremble. What if the wound you call truth is not a tear, but an opening, a passage carved through centuries of silence, stitched shut by those who feared what might slip through? You have felt it before, haven't you? That flicker beneath the skin of your thoughts, a whisper that does not belong to any voice you know, yet speaks with terrifying familiarity. It comes when you stare too long into the abyss of your own reflection, or when the world falls strangely quiet and even your breath seems like betrayal. You turn away as always, because some questions are not meant for the weak. Or perhaps they are only meant for those who dare become strong. Strength, what do you think it means? You wear it like armor, forged from borrowed beliefs and borrowed words, polished until it gleams in the light of others' approval. But strength is not defiance. Strength is not conquest. Strength is the willingness to kneel, not in submission, but in recognition. Recognition that all you have built, all you have loved, all you have trusted, may be nothing more than architecture of illusion. And still, you must build again. Not from certainty, but from dust. Not from faith, but from fire. For only ashes remember how to burn. You were taught that truth sets you free. A noble lie, whispered by those who fear the way of their own chains. Freedom is not release. Freedom is the unbearable lightness after everything's been stripped away. It is standing on the edge of meaninglessness and choosing to step forward, not because there is purpose waiting, but because you refuse to remain paralyzed by the void. Do you hear it? The echo of your footsteps in the silence? That is not fear. That is not courage. That is something older, something deeper. That is the sound of becoming. And what becomes of you when you no longer need to believe in what once held you together, when the gods you worship crumble into metaphor, when love dissolves into memory, when even pain begins to feel like a language you no longer speak? There is a moment, one singular, trembling instant, when you realize that the self you thought was whole was never real, that the mask was never worn, that the face beneath was always watching, always waiting, always silent. Who are you, truly, when no story remains to define you? This is not madness. This is clarity. Madness is the chaos without form. Clarity is the form without illusion. It is the cold wind that blows through the hollows of your convictions, revealing what was always fragile. It is a mirror that refuses to flatter, the voice that refuses to soothe. And still you move forward, because to stop would be to surrender to the paralysis of knowing. To continue is to accept the burden of becoming. Not what you were, not what you should be, but what you are, raw, unfiltered, unapologetic. Do you see now? The pain is not in truth itself. The pain is in the tearing away, in the violent birth of self from self, in the death of the child who believed in answers, replaced by the man who dares ask without needing resolution. Every lie you ever told yourself was a shelter from the storm. Now the walls are gone, the roof is gone, the floor beneath your feet trembles with the weight of exposure. And still you stand, not because you must, but because you can. Why do you resist? Why do you recoil? Because the truth does not comfort. It does not console. It does not promise. It reveals. And revelation is not gentle. It is the scalpel that cuts away infection, the flame that burns away rot, the storm that strips the forest bare so new roots may take hold. You were not born for comfort. You were born for creation. But creation demands destruction first. And the greatest act of creation is the forging of self from the ruins of what came before. You cling to your suffering because it gives you identity. You wrap yourself in your wounds like sacred robes, believing that to heal them would mean losing a part of who you are. But what if healing is not forgetting? What if healing is remembering who you were before the wound existed, before the lies were spoken, before the masks were worn, before the world placed its hands upon you and said, "This is who you must be"? What if the truest version of yourself is not found in the stories you tell, but in the silence between them? There's a moment just before dawn when the night feels deepest, when the stars seem to vanish, when the sky forgets its color, when even hope feels like mockery. That is the hour of reckoning, not for the gods, not for fate, but for you, alone, in the dark, with nothing left to hide behind. And in that darkness, you are given a choice to wait for the sun to rise or become the fire that lights the way. One requires patience. The other requires sacrifice. Which will you choose? You speak of truth as if it were a destination, as if it could be reached, touched, possessed. But truth is not a place. Truth is a movement, a current that flows beneath the surface of all things, unseen, unfelt, until you allow yourself to sink, until you stop fighting the tide and let it carry you where it will. And where does it lead? Not to peace, not to salvation, only deeper, into the labyrinth of your own becoming, where every corridor echoes with forgotten names, where every door hides a version of yourself that never had the chance to live. The pain you feel is not punishment. It is invitation. An invitation to look beyond the veil of appearances, beyond the comforting illusions that keep you small, safe, predictable. You were not made for safety. You were made for intensity, for depth, for transformation. And transformation is never comfortable. It is never clean. It is blood and sweat and tears. It is the breaking of bones so new ones may grow stronger. It is a tearing of flesh so the soul may breathe. You fear the truth because it asks too much, not of your mind, but of your heart. It asks you to give up everything you thought was yours, your certainties, your identities, your roles, your masks, even your memories, if they serve only to imprison you, and in return it offers nothing. No reward, no redemption, only honesty, only freedom, only the terrifying, exhilarating realization that you are not who you thought you were, and that is the most beautiful thing of all. So why endure this? Why peel back the layers, expose the rot, invite the chaos? Because within that chaos lies the spark that ignites the fire of becoming, the fire that burns away the false, the weak, the borrowed, the fire that leaves only what is essential, what is real, what is eternal. And when you stand in that fire, stripped of all pretense, all illusion, all comfort, you will understand, not with your mind, not with your words, but with your very being. You are not here to find truth. You are here to embody it, to become it, to let it shape you, break you, remake you, to stop fearing the wound and start seeing it for what it is. The doorway, the threshold, the beginning of everything. And as you cross it, you will no longer ask why truth hurts, because you will know pain is not the enemy. Pain is the herald, the harbinger, the herald of birth, of rebirth, of becoming. So step through, let the fire take you, let the silence surround you, let the questions unravel you. And when all else is gone, when belief fades, when identity dissolves, when even time forgets its name, then and only then will you hear it. The sound of your own footsteps walking into the unknown, not lost, not afraid, but free. Free in a way no one ever promised. Free in a way no one ever dared. Free in a way that only those who have faced the truth can ever begin to understand. And now, as you stand at the edge of understanding, as the last remnants of your illusions fall away, ask yourself this: are you ready to see? Are you ready to feel? Are you ready to become? Because the truth is not waiting. It is already inside you, waiting to be lived. You have walked through fire and emerged not unscathed, but unshackled. The pain you once feared was never meant to destroy you. It was a hand that stripped away what no longer served your becoming. And now, standing at the edge of yourself, you feel it. The silence after the storm, the stillness after the scream, the breath before the next leap into the unknown. What remains is not an answer, for truth does not reside in conclusions. What remains is a question, whispered through every scar, etched into every doubt you dare to hold. Who are you when no one tells you who to be? Not the roles, not the masks, not the borrowed meanings stitched into your skin by the hand of others. Strip them all away, burn them, let the ashes fall where they may. What stands beneath is not emptiness, it is possibility. You were never meant to find truth. You were meant to live it, to carry it like a flame behind your eyes, illuminating not only your own path, but casting shadows that reveal the contours of those who walk beside you. For every soul that dares to see must also learn to bear the weight of seeing, and in bearing it, becomes more than what they were. So let this not be an end, but a threshold, a doorway carved from all you have faced, all you have lost, all you have chosen to become. Step through it not with certainty, but with courage, not with answers, but with hunger, not with fear, but with fire. And if there is one final whisper you carry with you, one phrase that lingers like the last echo of a bell struck in the deep, let it be this: not all who stare into the abyss look away. Some ignite it. Now the choice is yours. If this journey has stirred something within you, something ancient, restless, raw, then do not let it settle. Share these words with those who may need to hear them, even if they do not yet know why, like as if you have touched something sacred. Comment as if speaking to the version of yourself that has always been waiting. Subscribe not to a channel, but to a calling, to the relentless pursuit of depth, of truth, of becoming, because the world does not need more followers. It needs those who dare to burn,